Um, First story of the day is Elon Musk, $1.5 billion in Bitcoin. So this is, I woke up, I think this happened on Monday of this week, and today is Thursday. I woke up at like 8 a.m. or something, and I checked Robinhood because I don't check Instagram when I wake up in the morning. I check my Robinhood because I'm down a couple $1,000. How much am I down right now on Robinhood? Let's see real time. I am down $4,000. Okay, anyway, back to new. So I check Robinhood every day just to see what's going on in the world, and Robinhood has a really good media integration with a lot of different stories and technology stuff that's going on. So the first thing I saw was that Elon Musk put in $1.5 billion into Bitcoin, and not Elon Musk personally, but Tesla did. There's a couple of reasons why this is really, really important. I think it's really sort of important to analyze and understand this. A is that Bitcoin, for those of people who don't know, and I don't know everything about it, but I do know a decent amount to be able to talk about it, is basically a cryptocurrency. And a cryptocurrency is just a digital currency that is decentralized, meaning there's not a bank or a government that controls the value of like the dollar or the euro or the British pound or things of that nature, but rather it's a currency that is communicated via a ledger of who has it and who doesn't have it. It's anonymous, which means when you make transactions with it, it doesn't go through a centralized machine that acknowledges that you have bought something and reports it to various different mediums in between in order to acknowledge that you've purchased something. This is why Bitcoin has been used to buy drugs and buy fake IDs and all that type of stuff, because it's a currency that people think has enough value to accept as a form of payment, obviously, because otherwise you wouldn't accept it as a form of payment because then it's useless. And it is operating currently as a reserve to gold, or that's what people are thinking of it. So the dollar and currencies are usually backed by some type of tangible thing, right? Now, most people would disagree with that because they're like, oh, the dollar is just like a piece of paper that's printed, right? We just assign it value. It doesn't actually have any value. But gold and silver are these types of things that are worth certain amounts of dollars, which allow people to feel that those things have actual value. In the context of Bitcoin at this point is worth about $48,000. It was worth about $37,000 the day Elon announced the news that Tesla bought $1 billion in it. It went up to $42,000, around that much. So $42,000 equals one Bitcoin. And that means that Bitcoin has market capitalizations that are more valuable than some of the largest companies in the world. And it's based off the bet that this is going to be the currency that the entire world uses, because the dollar is not going to be the big currency in the next couple of years or in the next decade or so. And gold and silver are also not going to have that same type of value. So I think the reason people are betting on Bitcoin is because they're recognizing the unique infrastructure that it is basically being communicated with. It is using a unique type of technology called blockchain in order to be distributed, and it's decentralized, which means governments can't control it, which means you can do amazing things with money that is not centrally conserved through one particular place. At that point, Bitcoin is starting to become this thing that people are recognizing has a lot of value in it, especially if the US dollar inflates at a rate that ultimately makes it worthless. This is what happened in Zimbabwe. Their inflation went to 626%, right? People literally don't use that currency anymore because that currency is worthless. It doesn't matter. So when a piece of currency gets to that type of rate, it doesn't have a lot of value. Elon Musk and Tesla investing $1.5 billion in Bitcoin, to me, signals that they are recognizing that there is a potential value in this type of currency that is going to fundamentally change the way that people communicate via dollars and via currency in the future. So, 20 years from now, if you buy your Starbucks for $4.50, could you buy it in $4.50 worth of Bitcoin? That is the existential question. Would Starbucks as a company accept the Bitcoin for the coffee because they see that the Bitcoin has value because it's an actual form of currency that they can use? And would the United States federal government that regulates and taxes that coffee that you buy for $4.50 start taxing Bitcoin? Or would they even be able to tax Bitcoin? These are really, really important questions. Elon Musk and Tesla are like, we think that Bitcoin is going to be one of those forms of currency that is going to run the world, and it's going to be worth much more than probably $33,000 or whatever they paid for it at the time. And that's why they've made this bet. Now, there's a couple of nuances to why they made this bet as well. A, I think they're trying to recognize that the stock price needs to go in proportion to the actual Bitcoin value itself. So when a company owns a certain amount of Bitcoin, that means their stock price reflects a certain value of Bitcoin as well, right? Because if your company has $10 billion and you've allocated $1 billion of it, which is 10% of that money, into a certain asset, and that means if that asset goes up or down, $1 billion of the total money in your company or the total worth of your company also goes up or down based upon the value of that asset or whatever investment that you made. So if they bought $1 billion worth of gold, the price of gold would affect Tesla stock theoretically, right? Because they put $1 billion of that into that reserve. The fact that they put it in crypto is signaling to me that they want investors to recognize that not only is cryptocurrency normalizing itself, specifically not only is Bitcoin becoming one of the leaders of the cryptocurrency world, but if crypto and Bitcoin continues to go on the upwards trend, then Tesla stock should continue to go on the upwards trend as well. So to me, it's kind of hedging their bets against what volatility will happen in the actual market. So let's say a year from now, they missed their deadline numbers on cars. So let's say they said that we would sell 1 million cars and they sold 700,000. So you missed 300,000 cars, right? But if the price, which is bad for the company, because you said you would sell 1 million, but you didn't sell that many. Now, if Bitcoin is up 55% that month, but Tesla, is down 30% on the orders that they promised they would be delivering, how do investors reconcile that? Because if a certain amount of capital of your company is allocated to a class of reserves or investments that are going up exponentially, then does it matter that you missed your deadline for selling 300,000 cars? Like theoretically, they should kind of balance each other's out in that respect. So I think what they're trying to do is be like, okay, if we are not fully successful in the main business operations, but we have diversified our investments, this thing going up still helps us in the eyes of the stock price. It's no different than a company acquiring multiple companies, right? So like Amazon or having different companies. Amazon has Amazon Prime. They have AWS. They have their retail business. They've acquired companies like streaming companies like Twitch. All of those things are what is factored into their $3,200 stock price. It's not just like how much are they selling on the website, right? Like that's one part of their business, but they've diversified into so many elements of business that parts of the business can do bad and other parts of the business doing good can make investors still feel healthy. So Tesla sells cars. I mean, and they don't even make all their money from selling cars. They really make their money from selling the regulatory credits for off-pricing the carbon dioxide emissions to other companies. So really governmental regulations and policies about climate change have led to Tesla even making a profit, not because they just don't sell enough cars, right? So I think this is a smart move ultimately by Tesla in diversifying how the stock price should be thought about, given how volatile the stock price is. And it's up, 900% since last year. I feel like it could be down 900% as well. I mean, it's just that volatile. It's really the story of Elon Musk that people have bought into, which has facilitated the sort of insane growth that we've seen on Tesla. So that's one thing. But one more point I want to put on this is Michael Burry, who is currently shorting the stock. So people who don't know Michael Burry, he is the guy who shorted the housing market in 2008. I'm going to do an entire episode on what the 2008 financial crisis was for dummies, right? I don't know if that's an offensive term anymore. It's the calculus for dummies, like those books. So it's going to be like a breakdown of the most simplest way to understand what happened in 2008. Michael Burry shorted the market. Basically, shorting means he made a bet that if the market goes down, he makes a lot of money. And he's currently shorting Tesla stock. So if Tesla stock price goes down, he will make a lot of money because he's betting and hedging against the stock. He is an avid communicator in the business world, even though he doesn't communicate that much. He just kind of communicates through tweets and stuff, very kind of in a secretish way. He doesn't even really have his full profile or anything like that. That Tesla's doomed, right? That he just doesn't believe in the fundamentals of the company. He believes the stock price is overbought to a high extent, and that's why he has a short position. And if he was right in 2008 about the mortgage market, if he is correct about 2021 Tesla, then he's going to make a lot of money on Tesla also being down and losing their value. He said that this is just a distraction. And I honestly think there's a little bit of merit to what he said. Basically, Tesla's having some regulatory concerns in China, which is one of their major markets right now. And I think they've had to recall a couple thousand vehicles. because of some problems with the vehicles, right? And that's obviously bad for investors because like recalling those vehicles means you have to take all of them back into the factory, do manual quality control, all that stuff. So that's a pretty bad thing. That's something that's definitely going to affect their balance sheet within the next couple of months, probably in quarter two. So what do? There's some upside to this Bitcoin thing. Let's just shift the entire narrative and put $1 billion into Bitcoin. And once we put $1 billion into Bitcoin at whatever price it is right now, it will normalize it so much that now the price will just go up and we're going to make a lot of money back on our billion. I think that was ultimately what they thought about. So Michael Burry basically said that they are just doing this to like distract the media from the stuff that's happening in China, because obviously everyone is talking about, putting $1 billion into Bitcoin and what that means for their valuations. So I don't know. He could be right. My take on this is overall it's good. I kind of buy into this whole Elon Musk being a visionary type of thing, but I do think Elon Musk is a clever visionary in terms of he's very strategic with how he communicates his messages to the world. And recently, if you've followed his Twitter, he's been communicating heavily about Bitcoin and Dogecoin. And I'm going to talk about Dogecoin in other videos as well, because I know there's a lot to talk about that. But he's basically been doing a lot of stuff and saying that, like, look, I'm an avid believer in cryptocurrency. And by saying that, and then ultimately we get this 10K filing that they are investing $1 billion into Bitcoin, that there's a lot of clever strategicness to what he's doing. It wouldn't sort of blow past me to think that he's also doing this to get investors to not worry about the stuff that's happening in China. And in general, not worry about the fact that they're not selling that many cars, but are valued more than, Hyundai and GM and Toyota combined. Like, that is a pretty ridiculous evaluation and is quite literally built off of hype. I mean, there's no other way to explain it. That, yes, you can say future potential, but future potential being worth more than 3 car companies in the world combined, I get it, but it can't be that exaggerated. And I'm bullish on Tesla. But obviously that's something to keep in mind. So ultimately, the take here is that I think this is going to normalize Bitcoin in the future. I do think Bitcoin's going to go to the moon. There might be a little bit of a pullback to like a decent crash if there's something very volatile that happens. But if not, it's at 48,000 right now. It's going to go past 50, past 60. I don't own any of it. I haven't invested in any of it. I remember in a classroom, my macroeconomics 101 class, sophomore year of college, this was back in 2017, the price was at $19,000. And I was just looking at it on Coinbase. And my macroeconomics professor, was basically saying Bitcoin is worthless. I'm looking at something that's worth $19,000. I'm looking at the lecture hall, the professor who's been teaching macroeconomics for like 15 years, saying that this thing is worthless. And then 3 years later, this thing is worth 50 grand. I mean, I'm not sure if you should trust every professor.